So I saw something on Friday. This very tragic matter of the immigration officer who has passed away, who was, and the ongoing court processes. And it's not the first one. There have been quite a few. And I was surprised at the manner in which the suspects were brought to court, the access of the general public to the
space,
to the suspects, the proximity of journalists and bloggers and everybody else to the suspects. The suspects were beaten from the Adabraka court.
They were beaten.
I mean, Charlie, the knocks and things all the way up there to them came back the same way. And I'm asking myself, even the lawyer for the suspect was put through
for defending who they think
yes, and people were asking why should he even be defending somebody like that. So this morning I just asked Sky to perhaps provide some explanation on why, irrespective of the crime,
the person deserves access to
not necessarily deserves, the person will have a lawyer. You know, and I want us to be, because people are very, very emotional about this matter, and rightly so. You understand? But my concern just has to do with just the general safety of work within that particular court. And I hope the Judicial Secretary takes note of what happened there. And it's not just that case. There were other cases. I remember the ACP Agojo case. We raised this matter at the time as well, where we have people headed to court in the custody of police or prisons, and they are face to face with the general public. You can, if I had a stick, I can just hit the person on the head with it. Yes, I might get arrested, but I will still be able to cause some level of damage to a suspect in that proximity. So, Sky, is this normal? Is that how suspects are brought to court?
Okay, so it would seem that there's everything wrong with how the police are managing this particular situation. We've seen that in the past, but it would seem that this is getting to next level lack of policing responsibility. First of all, a person who is accused of a crime is presumed under our constitution innocent until proven otherwise, which means that even as the person is being taken to court, you, the person seeing him go into the courtroom, have no right to want to treat him like a prisoner. Even a prisoner is entitled to some protection under the law. So merely because the police have arrested him for having allegedly committed a particular crime doesn't mean that you are at liberty to harm him in any way whatsoever. He's under the custody of the state, under the protection of our laws, until the law says he's done something wrong and certain rights should be withheld from him. You understand? So first of all, that is the premise upon which we would operate. Now, secondly, based on that premise, because he's under the protection of the state, the police who are in charge of law and order, the protection of rights like right to property and right to life, have an obligation to ensure that that person goes into the courtroom safely as part of his right to fair trial, rights. You understand? He has to go to court fairly. The judge will listen to him. He gets out. If there is a determination that he's guilty, the courts will know how to deal with it. But the police would seem not to be doing what they are supposed to do. You understand? Because ideally, you should create an appropriate parameter or the parameters within which the general public could not operate, which is to say that you ring fence the area. This is where we are going to use to get into the courtroom. You, the general public, you, the media people, you, the bloggers, are not entitled to go into those spaces. We are allowing a certain number of, if you like, family members who want to get into the courtroom to observe what is happening. We are also allowing a certain number of journalists who want to get into the courtroom to observe what is happening. But it would seem that we have a free-for-all situation.
You saw the video?
Yes. Free-for-all situation where people can sort of leap and do untoward things to the suspect when the suspect in the first place has not been found guilty of having done anything. He's just been arrested by the police who say they have evidence to show that he did A, B, C, D. Those pieces of evidence have to be tested in the crucible of the courtroom to understand whether or not it's possible to come to the conclusion that this man is guilty of the offense he's being accused of.
Until that is established.
You cannot, and even if it is established, the court would define how the person is dealt with.
Yeah.
Now, all of these things I'm talking about, you find the framework within Article 19 of the Constitution of the Republic.
14.
And 14 in appropriate cases. So, and then also, you spoke about the lawyer.
Yeah, Charlie, the lawyer, he had to enter the court again.
Now, you see, the lawyer is operating also under the Constitution, and by reason of his professional obligations. First of all, like I said, a person who is accused of a crime has to go through fair trial. Now, in the course of doing that, the Constitution says that you are entitled to a counsel of your choice. Which is to say that, okay, if I'm accused of something, knock on wood, Kakra, I can say that, oh, Kakra, please, I want you to represent me in this matter so that you can deal with this matter for me. Now, there's something known as the cab rank rule, which operates in the common law jurisdiction, which says that if you are a lawyer, or a number of lawyers have lined up, you are a lawyer, and then I have an issue and I come to you that represent me, right? There are only limited circumstances under which you can say, oh, you cannot deal with this matter. For instance, you don't have the expertise to deal with it. But under the cab rank rule, generally operating within a common law jurisdiction, you are to say that, okay, what's the issue? You need to deal with it. You can't discriminate. You can't say that for this matter. You can't pick and choose. It's just like you have a taxi rank. If a passenger comes to that taxi rank, the taxi that is loading, you get inside, right? The taxi driver cannot say that, oh, as for this guy, I don't like his face, or I don't like, how he's looking like, so I'm not going to accept him. So that is generally how the principle operates. So if I say Kakra should represent me, and Kakra feels that, oh, this matter is land law, maybe I don't have expertise in it, then she will say that in this particular case, okay, I may refer you to somebody, or that, look, I can't deal with this particular brief.
Yeah.
So, in some cases, if the person can't get a lawyer of his choice in this particular matter, because there are grievous issues at play, the court would even choose counsel to represent the person in court.
At all times, someone must be represented by a lawyer.
Because these are very heavy matters. Of course, in appropriate cases, you are entitled to represent yourself. But in this particular matter, we are dealing with something involving alleged killing of somebody else. It's not murder yet because it's not been proven in a court of law. Exactly. So the question is whether the family people are treating the lawyer in this case appropriately. In my respectful view, what they are doing is wrong. First of all, they are creating a hostile work environment for the lawyer. Secondly, they are undermining the accused person's right to a counsel of his choice. Thirdly, if the lawyer is threatened to leave the case, they would have undermined the rights of the person who is being accused in this particular case. And fourthly, the people involved can also be prosecuted. In fact, the lawyer is at liberty to sue them for assault in appropriate cases. We should not encourage a situation where merely because the police have arrested somebody, there's a presumption of guilt. There's nothing like that. It is not the case that you are presumed guilty until proven otherwise. No, you are presumed innocent until proven otherwise. And we've seen cases of miscarriage of justice where the police can, I'm not saying that this is the case in this situation, but in cases, there have been cases where people were arrested on suspicion of having committed a crime. And ultimately, the courts go into the matter, or evidence emerges subsequently to say that no, this person was not anywhere near the crime in the first place. So it is important that while there are highly emotional issues at play here, people should exercise restraint. Our courts have the capacity to distill these matters and come to a conclusion that is acceptable to the cause of justice, in my respect.
So, Kakra, no matter how emotionally charged a case is, no one has a right to assault a suspect in the process of going to court and out, no matter what, even to the extent of assaulting the lawyers, as I saw in the video.
So we exist in a country where there are laws, and the ground norm being the Constitution, as my learned colleague and my learned senior Sky has already alluded to. I knew you were going to respond. No, but that's the point. There are fair trial processes. And indeed, he made the point that it could turn out that the person, the alleged suspect, is turns out innocent. And you cannot take everybody to be guilty until proven innocent. That is even contrary to the Constitution. Article 19 entitles us or provides that if you are accused of a criminal offense, you are entitled to defend yourself, and you're entitled to be represented by a lawyer. Article 14 as well. And so I will just say that in as much as a loved one has been lost, okay, the expectation is that we respect the laws of the land. The expectation is that we do not take the law into our own hands. We allow the trial to take its course, and we give the lawyer as well the room to operate. Imagine if you found yourself in a situation where you believe you are innocent, but you're on trial. You would expect that the provisions of the Constitution will work in your interest as well. You will expect that you'll be entitled to a defense. You will expect that you'll be entitled to a lawyer to represent you. And so until the court has deemed the person innocent, not guilty, or otherwise, because it's up to the court, let's not take the law into our own hands. And I think that the public should also not weaponize their groupings and creating mobs that are perhaps well-intended for justice, but in the space of emotions, that becomes injustice. And so I will just ask that everybody, exercises some restraint, especially the family, and also allow this lawyer to do his work.
And quickly though, I think the police also have an obligation to bring about sanity, right? In appropriate cases, I believe they must arrest people and prosecute them for unlawful assembly, because yes, while the courts are open for people to go there and observe proceedings, there have been times that people have weaponized these gatherings for their own effect. Look, the death of the young man, it's devastating, it's traumatizing. The circumstances under which they discovered the body, and if you listen to the story around it,
account is strong.
I mean, like, if you're a family member, you'll be outraged by that. But that is why we have elected for ourselves to put together a constitution which says that there are things you can do, there are things you cannot do.
Sky, is there a structural challenge here, so that if the court facility was built in a way that the suspect could be taken in or out of the glare of the public in a manner that is safe enough, this wouldn't have happened, to the extent that the lawyer too got assaulted in the process.
The truth is that, and I say this with all the respect I can command for the judiciary of our country, the Adabraka District Court, like many other courts we have in this country, is not fit for purpose.
What we have at the Workers' College,
opposite where the city campus.
Yes, city campus.
Right. You see some story building there. That building, in any properly functional democracy, which has rule of law principles in play, and which says it is a respecter of the rights of suspects and the judges working in that environment and the lawyers working in that building should not serve the purpose of dispensing justice. But that is what we have.
Even our justice system is suffering from infrastructure challenges.
Well, yeah, I mean, the place is not fit for purpose. But what do you call it? I don't want to use extreme examples, but it is not fit for purpose. With the greatest respect to our judiciary, the justices the judges working in that building, and the lawyers who go there, and the people who go there in pursuit of justice, that does not qualify properly, so-called, to serve as a shrine of justice. So I would seriously urge that while we still do have logistical and infrastructural challenges, I think we should find a better alternative to serve as the Adabraka District Court. Because seriously,
immediately,
yes, I mean, it has to happen, because really, I've been there a number of times, and also throughout my years as a reporter and then also practitioner, I find it objectionable that is where we dispense justice, because it is not fit for purpose. I would explain why we have some of the challenges.
Basically, from our classrooms to our hospitals to even our courts of justice, we have infrastructural challenges.
And just to add to what Sky is saying, I think that the journalists and the bloggers, etc., ought to exercise or carry out their work with respect of the place they find themselves. The court is not a place for antics, and going near the, shoving phones and cameras in the faces of suspects, etc. You need to ply your trade.
Well, in this case, they were outside of the courtroom.
It's still part of the court. You need to respect the rights of the individual who is also an alleged suspect.
Well, so it's good learning for all of us this morning that, if someone is a suspect, no matter how emotionally charged the case is, no matter how wrong you think the person may be, once the police has named the person as a suspect, it does not automatically conclude that the person is guilty. The court has the ultimate responsibility to decide based on the evidence presented to it to pronounce someone guilty. And even after they are pronounced guilty, it does not lie in your power to exert justice or harm the person in the process. And no matter how bad a case is, everyone is entitled to a lawyer. And you do not go about inflicting harm on the lawyer or threatening the lawyer, whether verbally, physically, whatever it is we saw is reprehensible.
Yeah, and the people who are in the business of taking lawyers to shrines, to pastors to pray.
No, you don't mean it.
These are we face very serious threats in the course of our duty.
No, they take you to shrine.
There's a certain mischaracterization of what we do. That lawyers, they are liars. No lawyer properly so-called is entitled to go before a court of law and tell lies. No. When you do that, the General Legal Counsel has the authority to remove the cloak of or the bliss of authority around you. That is, take your robe and gown away, because you are supposed to assist the courts to dispense justice.
Maybe they are seeking the assistance of supernatural powers to win the case in court.
No, it's wrong. Look, we also have family. Like we are basically assisting the courts to do what it must do.
Right.
That doesn't mean that we have taken the side of the other person and so we are supporting wrongdoing. No, the law says that we help in the process of justice being dispensed. Yeah. So this idea of seeing us as enemies, insulting us, attacking us, taking us to juju people and all of that, it is just wrong.
The last point to emphasize is that the police must also assist with all the infrastructural challenges we have and the public education we are trying to disseminate out there, so that families and friends of aggrieved persons can conduct themselves with restraint, while bloggers and journalists also discharge their duty with circumspection. We need the police to be also up and doing to protect the suspects and the lawyers and all officers involved in the dispensation of justice. That's very important.
And these bloggers, they have become a new menace, it will seem. With the greatest respect to them, I think there's the lack of professionalism in how many of them are handling, how they cover events and all of that. I think there's something to be learned from the Standogbe and his people,
and the coverage of
how they nicely sanitize the space. I think
I mean the final funeral for the fallen eight.
Exactly. I started complaining when I saw them taking mobile phones into the faces of mourners at the Daddy Lumba, what do you call it?
His residence.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, people are mourning, for God's sake. And people are busy pushing, shoving cameras and small microphones into the faces of the people who are mourning, merely because you want to put something online. I think it is completely unprofessional. We should be talking about a way of regulating that space without undermining the right to free expression.
That's very important.
And media freedom. It's important.
That's very important.